Yeah, good question. So, well, yeah, let's start at the beginning. So, what you saw was the federal government a couple decades ago started saying we're going to require these tests of every state. And again, what we've seen under President Trump is let's return power back to the states. Why is the federal Department of Education dictating for every kid what a test should look like, what a testing schedule should look like? And so what you've seen is this massive end of year testing operation that takes for some districts over a month to get all the testing done. And what happens is the test scores don't come back till late in the summer. Parents are frustrated. I heard this on the campaign trail. I heard this. We did a survey of parents. Over 20,000 parents responded. Over 81% said we hate it. We hate testing. They gave us a lot of great feedback that we were sorting through for months. And it was basically this: it's not giving us information to let us know if our kids are learning. It's too late, and it's not really what we're looking for. So that's what we began to work with districts. We began to work with parents and teachers to go, okay, let's talk about how you assess learning, the best ways to assess learning, and how do we get that to a model that parents can see that in real time and you can make decisions based on it. So that's really the impetus here. We began working with the President Trump's team a few months ago on this to say, look, this is our vision. Can we work with you to get us there? And they were awesome to work with. They were great partners here to say, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. States coming up with solutions to help drive outcomes. Yeah, and so this is really the beauty of this is we're taking the government mandated test off the table. So we're going to get the government out of the way and say, schools, you do, and a lot of parents will know this, the benchmark testing you do. So every 6 to 9 weeks or so, you give a test to say, how well are you doing at this moment? Well, what we're saying as a state is, okay, that's what we're going to support. That's what we can go in and financially help support. We can make sure that those are calibrated so we can see exactly how your kids are learning compared to other schools in other states. We can absolutely do that. But we're not then going to come in at the end of the year and say, now there's this massive government test for your kids to take. We're going to look at those scores. We're going to make sure parents have those scores in real time so we can measure success. And then at the end of the year, we'll see where they end up. But those measurements will give us, frankly, more information on how students are doing, more information in a usable time frame. So look, if adjustments need to be made, 10 weeks in, 12 weeks in, those adjustments are made in real time rather than for the next school year. So practically speaking, what you're going to see are these smaller tests that are very much, did your kid understand and have a core competency in the standard that they just learned? If they do, as a parent, you're going to know immediately rather than at the end of the year. Great question. So what this does is say, listen, our focus is, are they competent in the standard that they're learning? That's what we're looking to measure, not hey, hold on a second. Now at the end of the year, we're gonna do this test that is run through federal requirements and these massive testing companies. No. What we're gonna say is, look, let's measure it quicker to when they were taught the core standard. Did they get it? If they did, great. Let's tell a parent right now and let's move forward. So what you're gonna see from a parent's perspective is much closer to when a student passes a standard. And frankly, this is what teachers want. That they want to know here in real time, hey, look, if they didn't get it, we'll go back and reteach it. We'll go back and get them in a tutoring program. We'll take the steps necessary. And so what you're going to see is this teacher's curriculum will be much more tied to standards, much more tied to student learning. So we've been working with the Trump administration on this for a while now. So we've been working with them on what does a waiver need to look like? What do we need? What would be passed? What would be accepted? So these have been ongoing conversations for a while now. So now we have to formally submit that. We have to announce it, formally submit it. So that's all part of the process. So again, we've been working with them from day one about what would be approved. And so this is kind of the final step of that process to say, here it is officially. But that's what President Trump's team has been tremendous on. No, we don't need any of their approval. They don't understand how this works. So what we do is we will still submit how students are performing at the end of the year. That will still happen. So we will still give the information to the federal government, which that's actually what's required by law. That is still going to happen. But what we're going to do is be able to give them, frankly, more information on how students are doing by giving the snapshots throughout the year. Then at the end of the year, that will serve as here is meeting the requirements by the federal government. Here is the information. Oh, absolutely. Because remember, this is what many districts already do. So they are already teaching to the standards. They are already assessing to the standards. They are already doing benchmarks. So what we're saying is we're now going to come in and support that work. So they're going to have more support, more resources for what they've been doing. And we're going to take out this requirement so we're taking something out and we're reallocating our resources to what not only are they already are doing, but what they say, that's what we want to do. That is what we're trying to do, is meet these standards, meet core competencies. So this enables us as an agency to say, listen, since President Trump got all these requirements out of the way and is allowing us to do this, we can now reallocate those resources, not going to a massive end of year testing, but throughout the year support. So they're going to get more supports. They got a major issue taken off their plate, and we're going to be able to see student learning much more accelerated, number one. But secondly, also parents are going to be able to see that in more real time. Well, 5 years from now, I think we're not going to have a federal Department of Education. So, what we're going to see now is as President Trump continues to move forward, you will see less and less of a federal government, a federal footprint on education. So this is the very beginning of what you're starting to see here from the Trump administration. These new funds that they released, again, remember, they are saying we're not going to require federal funds to be used on DEI and all these other nonsensical programs. And then what do once they do that? They return it to the state. So again, what we're going to continue to see is more of an ability for states to make decisions on what the best interests are of their kids and parents. And Oklahoma, we're going to continue to be the leading state on, we are moving at the fastest pace possible to when President Trump brings us that power back, we're going to then shift that power back to parents, teachers, and kids in the classrooms. Yeah, so we've been meeting with dozens of superintendents from across the state now for over 2 years on this. So we've been working with them of what's the best way to do this, what's the best apparatus to do this. So yeah, we've got a full team here working with districts. We have a full assessment staff, accountability staff to help them work through this. But again, what we've done is take something off of the plate, and the supports will come in to help facilitate what's already being done in the districts, but to make it more accessible to parents and to make it more accessible as a transparent measure through the state. So I think all of this, we're very excited. I think it's going to be the best school year ever, and I think this is going to be a major step in the right direction. Look, I'm very excited. Oklahoma, we've been leading in education reform. We've been making major changes. Going into this year, we've got all the teachers we've recruited with the biggest signing bonus in the country. We've got 1,000 teachers on our merit pay system now. And so what we're starting to see is you're getting great teachers to stay in the classroom. We're recruiting them back to the classroom. And what we're doing with a measure like this is to say, hey, parents, we're going to make sure that the teachers have the time and resources to focus on your child and not these federal requirements. So as President Trump continues to peel them back, we will continue to give more power to the classrooms, to the parents, to the teachers. And so I think it's going to be a huge success moving forward, and parents are going to see it rather quickly. I've made my comments. We're moving forward. I'm going to have the best school year ever. We are working to make sure that our schools are as successful as possible for our kids. And so I've made my comments on that, and I'm moving forward.
So no plans to apologize to them?
I'm focused on kids. That is absolutely my focus. So we'll be moving forward, putting kids first in everything we do.